Am I the asshole for not wanting to pack lunches for my husband's colleagues? To start off, I love cooking, and since me and my husband had gotten married earlier this year, one of my ways of expressing affection towards him is by making packed lunches. I also try out different cuisines every week or so depending on how I feel. I usually wake up quite early to prepare his lunches because I also work full-time. Getting to the point, my husband's colleagues eventually started taking notice, and my husband capitalized on that opportunity because one of them is a manager and my husband was finding a way to coax him in hopes of getting a better position at work. However, the problem arises when without my permission he went ahead and spoke on my behalf that I will pack lunches for them too. When he came back home and told me, I was quite disappointed because even though I love making lunches for him, for his colleagues, people I don't even know, it seemed exhausting. Moreover, it is not just for one person, which he initially had me believed, but rather 5 of his colleagues. I tried it out for one day to make my husband happy. I had to wake up at 3:30-ish that day because my own work starts at 8. I was almost late for work and had to rush through everything. It was not a pleasant experience. Long story short, however, that day I made Thai-packed lunches. I made green curry, tom yum flavored wings, prawn fritters and Thai fried rice, and they all enjoyed it. Now my husband is thinking of making it a weekly thing where every week I make a different cuisine for them for any one of the weekdays. Although that may seem easy, I don't want to do it anymore. I do like sharing the food I make, but I don't want it to feel like a chore. My husband, however, thinks I'm the asshole because he mentions that it is only once per week and that I'm just being lazy. Well, he is not wrong, I am lazy, but I also just don't want to make food for his colleagues. The lunches I make are for my husband to enjoy. For some reason my husband thinks I'm being unreasonable and that I don't support him because by me doing this he believes they will be more inclined to give him a raise or a promotion or even a recommendation at work. I just find it pretentious that he has to depend on the food I make for a promotion. I am sure that he can get a promotion by his own merit because he is a very smart and accomplished man himself. I feel kind of torn between the idea of whether to continue making lunches only for him or whether I should take that extra effort and make one, once every week, for his colleagues too. Besides, the money to make these lunches, even if only once a week, comes from my pocket too, which still, if we add all 4 times in a month, would be a fair too much just for food. Edit. Please forgive me if I can't get to all of you. I am reading and absorbing the comments. Sorry for caps heart. Thank you all for the judgments and jokes. Fuck this into orbit. If they give him a promotion on the basis of wifey making lunches for everyone, it's a shit place to work. Edit. I was so angry I almost forgot not the asshole. Not the asshole. If he wants to feed his county workers, he can get up early and cook the lunches himself. And the fact that he offered to 5 people without even consulting you first makes him a huge awe. Not the asshole at all. Not even the slightest. You wake up early, you prepare his lunch out of the kindness of your own heart. He's taking advantage of your generosity and using it for selfish means. I think you need to remind him that it is an act of love, and you weren't obligated to make his lunches to begin with. Not the asshole at all. What the fuck? 5 other people? As well as getting ready for your own job? Maybe one if I were a SAHW without kids, then possibly I'd consider doing it if he asked me and let me decide myself. But he's so wrong for not even asking you and then demanding you do it and trying to emotionally manipulate you. Was he like this before you got married? Tell him you'll do it. If once a week he wakes up at 3 a.m. to puts together a mini bookcase for 5 of your friends. He's watched way too many TikToks of women packing lunches. LMFAO. Not the asshole. I'd stop making his lunches, period. When I was first married to my now ex, I packed his lunch to show him I cared. He got home and bitched about how his mother did a better job. I never packed his lunch again, and you shouldn't either. Tell him to make his own fucking lunches. Not the asshole. Tell him he is lazy by expectation you to do work for his promotion or a raise. If he wants to bring his colleagues lunches, I have a really radical solution: he cooks them himself. To be honest, he shows an extreme level of ungratefulness here. He doesn't appreciate and value the effort you put into his food and takes it for granted. And you are not lazy by not doing this. Don't ever let him call you that again. Not the asshole. If he thinks you are being lazy, why doesn't he wake up at 3:30 in the morning to cook for his colleagues, then? Not the asshole. Am I the asshole for not eating my meal at my cousin's wedding because my dad changed my selection? Several years ago my grandparents had a 50th anniversary party. It was set up kinda like a wedding reception, so we had a choice for the meal. The options were 2 different German foods and steak. I was like 16, so I chose steak. Then at the actual event someone couldn't come and orders were mixed up and I ended up with a pickle wrapped in meat. Everyone insisted that was what I picked. So I tried it, but then gave it to my dad because I didn't like it. Later they realized that I ended up with the person that couldn't come's food. No big deal. Well, since then this has become a joke with my family. They've done it 2-3 times since, whenever there's a wedding event with food selections. When my grandma was alive she yelled at my dad for it since he's the instigator. I'm not sure if he's doing it to get 2 meals or to be annoying, make me mad, or what the deal is. My cousin got married Saturday. A few weeks ago they sent out cards to pick our meal. They sent all of ours, dad's, mine, sister's, to my dad's house, with one return envelope. The options were steak, chicken, or stuffed portobello mushrooms. I selected steak, and specifically told my dad to, "Just let me have a damn steak instead of messing with it." He said, "I won't write anything on your card." Then fast forward to Saturday. Everything is going well, wedding is nice. We sit down to dinner and they give me mushroom stuffed with vegetarian pilaf. I said, "There must be a mistake, I selected the beef." Server said that the star on my place card meant I ordered vegetarian. I looked at my dad and he laughed and said, "I called Natalie after we sent our cards and told her you became a vegetarian and wanted to change your choice." My sister was there and said, "Dad, don't you think that's getting old?" I said, "You said you wouldn't mess with it." He said, "No, I said I wouldn't write on your card. I didn't." I called her, "Now you have to eat mushrooms, ha ha." I said, "No, I don't." Some time passed and my dad said, "Seriously, you're not even going to try it? They're just mushrooms, they won't hurt you." I shook my head. I hate mushrooms and I'm sick of this joke. I sat there till other people started getting up. Then I got up and went by the bar and had a beer, and avoided my dad till I left. My sister later said that I should have at least tried a little. It was kinda rude to just leave a whole plate of food sitting there. She said I could have had some of the rice stuff, but for all I know there were mushrooms in the pilaf too. Honestly, this makes me not want to go to any more family events with a meal. Am I the asshole for not eating any of my food during the wedding? Not the asshole. I have no clue why this amuses others in your family. Not the asshole. If you're feeling petty, find an opportunity to do it to your dad. See how he likes his food being messed with. Not the asshole, your father is not funny. The joke is old. And the bride and groom paid for a plate of food that was not eaten. Hilarious. Your dad is an asshole who is now wasting food and PPL's time. He needs to grow up, and I would fall back until he figures it out or do the same to him, but tell them he gets no meal. Your sister was wrong also. If you don't like something, why must you try it to appease everyone else because your dad likes to play stupid games? Not the asshole. Honestly, this makes me not want to go to any more family events with a meal. This is a perfectly reasonable solution. I would make sure your family knows why. I'd also phrase it in an ambiguous way. I've learned I can't eat a meal around my father without his interfering with my food and ultimately preventing my eating anything. That doesn't make any distinction between obnoxious teasing and enforcing an eating disorder. Ultimately, there really isn't a distinction here. Someone who behaves the way your dad does doesn't respond to reason or appeals to decency, only consequences. That includes public shaming. Not the asshole. And since this is a running joke in your family, though I hardly consider messing with someone's food a joke, your cousin should have asked you when your dad pulled what he did. Not saying your cousin is the asshole. Planning a wedding can be hard and confusing, but this should have set off an alarm bell. Your dad sucks. It was not rude to leave the food untouched, and to anyone who tells you it's rude, tell them to take that up with your father because it was his doing, not yours. Edit to add. Your dad is not a jester, he is a bully. Not the asshole. I would have taken my dad's plate, and said that if thought the mushrooms were so great, he could have them. Not the asshole. So your dad and sister got embarrassed by their own shitty behavior. Well, they suck and they earned it. They're lucky you didn't make a big scene and wreck the wedding. If this is a regular bit at family events, your sister knew exactly what your dad was up to, and played along with it. The rudeness was all on your sister's part, and none on yours. If I was going to be the butt of the joke at every family occasion, I'd stop going as well. Screw them. Edited. You know, caterers usually have a few extra portions hanging around in case of emergency. If they didn't even offer you one of these, at the cost of an extra plate, they really suck. Am I the asshole for having a vulgar and unprofessional nickname? I work in a hospital with around 6-7 other guys in my department, along with the chief of our department. A part of our workplace culture, which I frankly find cool, is to have nicknames at work. Our nicknames are pretty much interchangeable with our actual names. Say, "My name's John," but sometimes they'll say, "Hey," involve nickname in this case too. Or say, "Hey John, how was your weekend?" and I'll respond, "Boring." Nickname, "What about yours?" The nicknames aren't anything offensive at all BTW. Here's the rundown. We've got Speedy, who got her nickname because we saw her sprint once and she is insanely fast. Archer, a former archery champion. Seer, because she is super into divination. Snowborn, because he's never cold. The Chief, whose nickname is the King. The story of the King is actually pretty cool, to be honest. He was the youngest ever chief of any department and one of the older folk called him the Boy King. He's definitely not a boy now, so he's just the King. My nickname is the Gravewalker. Reason being, I work the graveyard, middle of the night, shift most of the time. I love it. The hospital is nice and quiet and the only patients that come in are real cases that genuinely need help. I also have some scars which contributed to the badass nickname according to the chief. Personally, I think the nicknames are great, as do the rest of us, because it's brought us all a little bit closer and, frankly, my nickname's cool. Call me immature, but we work dead serious jobs and need a little bit of humor and fun sometimes. A new girl joined us and she was very against nicknames. She found out when someone said, "Hey," involve the Gravewalker in this case, he's experienced with this. And she found me scary to approach cuss of that name. She now refuses to call anyone by the nickname, and if I reference someone by the nickname, she used to just flat out ignore me. The chief had a chat with her about respecting the workplace culture, and how she needs to integrate better. So instead she came after me, yelling at me about how my nickname is vulgar, unprofessional, and I should have denied it when they gave it to me. She told me to talk to everyone, but make it seem like it came from me so she doesn't get into trouble. If it's relevant, we haven't given her a nickname yet and now we try to reference each other's names when talking to her. I also told her to go fuck herself when she came yelling and she looked like she was about to faint. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. The culture of nicknames isn't problematic unless it is used around patients. Ask for the Gravewalker when I'm in hospital, and I may shit my pants. She entered a culture that she found discomforting. She can then ask, "Can you guys not use the nicknames to me? I prefer real names, and please don't give me one," or she can decide it isn't right for her and leave. If someone came after me like that, I'd tell them to get fucked too. So instead she came after me, yelling at me about how my nickname is vulgar, unprofessional, and I should have denied it when they gave it to me. She told me to talk to everyone, but make it seem like it came from me so she doesn't get into trouble. You need to report her unprofessional, yelling, bullying, and asking you to lie behavior to the chief. Not the asshole. Her nickname should be Umbrage. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. But yeah, don't give her a nickname. Personally, I agree with you. My entire team has nicknames that highlight their uniqueness. Keeps the job fun. Mine was Old Man because I was the youngest manager in the company and about 20 years younger than my team at first. Not the asshole. When the King asked her to integrate better, I don't think he intended for her to do so by screaming at you for having a cool nickname that references your lifestyle. This girl has mental issues. I suspect she's not going to last long at your workplace. What she did was the exact opposite of what was asked of her. If you were using it in front of a patient, I can see how it would be inappropriate, patient scared. Coworker go get graveyard for this one equals terrified patient. But you've said you don't use it in front of customers, so there's nothing inappropriate or unprofessional about it and newbie needs to get with it or get out. Not the asshole. I have a few nicknames for her. NTA. Like, Buzzkill, and, Stick Up Ass. Your nickname could be considered tasteless if you're using it in front of patients, or relations of patients. There's a time and a place for nicknames referencing death, and it's OBV not in front of people who are sick, dying, or whose loved ones are sick, dying. If you're only using it where other staff members can hear, then it's not really unprofessional. And it's not really vulgar at all. Am I the asshole for kicking out my GF's family for tying up my dog? I, M48, have a girlfriend, Mariah F40, that I've been seeing for 2 years. I live in the Northeast USA. I also have a dog, Boots, M3. Boots is a working dog breed, but is well behaved and loved by my friends and neighbors. He has the run of the house, and I also have a big fenced-in backyard for him to run around in. Mariah grew up in the South on a farm. She's been around dogs before, but they've always been outside dogs that worked the farm and slept in the barn or kennels. She never had an indoor dog like Boots, and it was an adjustment to get used to him, but she loves him now. She did mention to me that her mother would never get used to an indoor dog, and would absolutely not allow a dog in the kitchen. Mariah's mom and brothers wanted to visit her, but Mariah lives in a small 1BR apartment and doesn't have the room for them. Their family also can't afford a hotel. Mariah asked if the family could stay in my house. My house has plenty of space, so I agreed. They came, and things mostly went well, but as expected, Mariah's mom kept making comments about Boots being allowed indoors, and how that wasn't right. I told them, gently, that I'll keep Boots from bothering them, not allowing him in their bedrooms, trying to keep him underfoot. But this is my home, with my rules, and Boots gets to hang indoors with me. Aside from being around, Boots didn't do anything provoke them. He generally chills in whatever room I'm in, unless someone is actively playing with him. One morning, I woke up late and came downstairs to see Mariah's family eating breakfast. I noticed that Boots wasn't around and I asked where he was. Mariah's mom said, "Dogs don't belong in the kitchen, so we put him outside." I was slightly annoyed, but Boots likes being outside, so I figured it wasn't a big deal. I looked out the window thinking I would see him on my back deck, his usual spot, but he wasn't there. I stepped outside to find him, and still couldn't see him. I went around the corner of the house and found Boots tied up to the fence using rope from kindling bundles I have for my fire pit. After untying Boots, I went back inside and asked Mariah's mom why they tied up my dog. She said that dogs shouldn't be allowed to run around, and she was just treating him like a dog should be treated. I told them to pack their shit and GTFO. Mariah and her mom called me an asshole because they had nowhere else to go. I said that was their problem. If they couldn't respect me and my dog, they had to get out. Am I the asshole? And #X200B. Edit. Sorry. No dog taxes, I'm trying to protect my throwaway. But Boots was posted in Rough Collies a couple of months ago, if that's any consolation. Edit 2. It's not clear from my post, but Mariah didn't know about or condone Boots' treatment. She was worried about her family being put out. Mariah loves Boots and spoils him worse than I do. For example, she often takes him on long walks, and she insisted on holding a birthday party for him complete with pupcakes. Not the asshole. Let's be honest, putting him outside would have sufficed. They tied him up to prove a point, and you proved your point by kicking their asses out. Not the asshole, and Mariah's an asshole for allowing them to do that. They could have just let him run around the yard, but they went an extra step and tied him for no logical reason. I hope they found a shitty pet-friendly motel to stay in and that the dogs there are barking up a storm for most of the day. Edit. I wrote this long before he edited his post. You don't need to clarify anything for me. Thanks. Obviously, now that Op made the post clear, she is only the asshole for siding with her family instead of practicing common decency. Not the asshole. What a horrible thing to do as a guest in someone else's home. Your house, your rules. You may want to re-evaluate your relationship with Mariah going forward. By the way, we need a picture of Boots. Oh, but they do have somewhere to go. Right back where they came from. If they can't respect that Boots is a resident of that house, then they can GTFO. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. You clearly explained your house rules to them, those were ignored. Plus actually mistreating the dog is an insta ban in my book. Not the asshole. They disrespected your house rules. What would they have said, if you visited them and took your dog into their kitchen and just told them, dogs are family members and should be treated accordingly? They disrespected you, which is the important issue here. Not the asshole. It's dangerous to haphazardly tie dogs to fixed objects. Lots of dogs have had fatal accidents this way. Don't let those people back into your house. Not the asshole. Boots is the resident, Mariah's mom is the guest. Guests don't make the rules. Blows my mind that he had to be tied up when you have a fenced backyard for him. Sounds extra tortuous to me.